go over a few examples in order to see how we can run an if statement. So we talked about a controller structure and the outcome being Boolean. Our first example is going to be assigning two values. Let's call them an x and y, and we're going to check if x is equal to y or not. Now the outcome of that check must be a Boolean statement. So let's run it. Yeah, we see that the outcome is going to be true. Now, if we check another condition, x not being equal to y, this is the way we write that, and the answer is going to be false. Let's write another example. In this one, we're going to check three variables. So we're assigning three numbers to x, y, and z. You can always get these numbers from the user. And now let's check if x is greater than y. So that's 5 not being greater than y, 10. And the output of that is going to be false. If we reverse that, now we see that we're going to get true statement. Let's try it with z. And that's going to be true. Now I'm going to turn this into print so we see the result of both statements. And the outcome is going to be true for both conditions. Now in this little example, let's try to check now the type of the output of a condition. So let's say a and b is equal to 5 and 15. Now c is going to be the result of checking whether a is equal to b or not. And now we can check the type of c. So I'm going to say print c and then print type c. And see that the class is going to be Boolean. Next, let's write an if statement that assigns value 0.2 to commission rate if sales greater than or equal to, let's say, $1,000. So what we do is that we can say sales. I can just define this. Let's just give it a variable, or I can just bring that as an input. I'll just say input sales numbers. And then we say if sales greater than 1,000, and what we need to do is that we need to put a column, and by the time I'm writing this, most Python platforms will give you an indentation, but if it didn't have any, we press tab, and I'm just gonna say put commission rate equal to 0.2. And I can also say print good work. Okay, so what does this do? It will basically check and it will assign that variable the value, and then it will also print good work. So let's run this program. I can say the sales numbers are 2,000. Let's see this error, a string and integer. Which line is that? So we are looking at, must be here. I'm just gonna say print. And the input was not, I guess, a number. So we turned that to a number. Let's run it again. Let's say sales were $2,000. Says good work. Commission rate is 0.02. If we run it and now this, let's say sales amount was 500, it will still print commission rate 0.2 because in the last run of the program the commission rate was already set to 0.2. But what I can do is that I can now put commission rate equal to 0. So unless they make 1,000, they won't get any commission. So let's say the sales amount 500, the commission rate is going to be 0. So that's how you can use a simple if statement. Let's run another example. In this one, we want to ask the user to enter a number and write a program to check if that number is positive. So I can just use whatever I wrote on top. I'll just say number is equal to integer input, please enter a number. And then we can write that if number was greater or equal to 0, so if it was positive, then we can print and say the number that you mentioned is positive. I can just write it in this way. I can say the number is, and then put the number and say it's positive. And otherwise, if it's not, you can just finish this statement. I'm just going to finish this by saying print bunch of stars. So let's run this program. We're looking at the error. So it says the number is positive. Scanning string literals. Okay, because I'm using a mix of these, so I'm going to use quotation for that. Let's run this again. Enter a number. Let's say 2. The number is 2. We can say and is positive. Let's run it again. 5. The number is 5 and is positive. Now, let's see what happens if we give not a positive number. So I'm going to run this program again. I'm just going to say -1. We will get nothing. Now, as you can see, in most cases, oh, by the way, when we're running this print, I can also say print times 20. It should give me the same response. And let me just turn into hashtags. It will print that 20 times. Let's say 3. So I will get that under 2, right? So this was similar to that. Another way to write this down is when we have multiple conditions. Obviously, for instance, in this case, if the number was over 0, we want to say it's positive, and if it wasn't, we wanted to say probably the number is not positive or it's negative. Now this comes to different types of decision structure. So the first one that I mentioned here is an example of a single or one-way decision structure. The alternative to that is going to be a two-way structure. And if we extend it, we're talking about a multi-way decision structure when we're comparing with multiple conditions. Now let's rewrite the program and try to write it down in a way that we not only consider the positive numbers, but also be able to express them when the numbers are negative. So we write else, which basically means anytime the first condition is not met, just skip that block and go to this block. And here we just change the information to negative. Let's run this program. The positive number works okay. And if we give a negative number, we see that it works fine as well too. And that's how a multi-way or two-way if statement works.